Saints quarterback Derek Carr on putting together a complete performance and using football to teach his kid. Man's is bundled up over here. I feel like I should be recording from a blizzard or something. Let's go ahead and listen to what Derek has to say in the media availability.
It's one of those games where it's mentally draining, at the end of it. It's like when I talked about playing, Belichick. It's one of those days where there's so much mentally going on that you have to blink of an eye, you wouldn't even, see it or know, but that Mike points in this and who's in and what personnel and this and that, decisions and blitzes and protections, and he makes it really difficult, but I've always had a lot of respect for him.
Is that just like from a disguise standpoint you're talking, and just like sending blitzes different ways?
Yeah, disguise, personnel.
So we kind of jumped into the middle of the sentence here. I'm not sure what he's talking about. I'm not sure why we're talking about Belichick. I'm not really totally sure what, I don't know if he's talking about the Giants. I don't know if he's talking about the Giants defense or how that's going to go, but we're going to try and use context clues here.
Wise, making you see one thing and doing another. I know in Baltimore they used to have all those.
Oh, he's talking about Wink Martindale.
Out there and
okay.
You didn't know which one was.
He's talking about Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator for the Giants.
Rushing, which one was dropping. It makes it tough on him on a mic point. Makes it tough, and he's been doing that for years. And so he's doing the same kind of things with disguises, holding shells, holding looks. And he's got those guys bought in, and they're doing a really good job.
Derek, what's it been like kind of dealing with what you're dealing with physically every 2-3 weeks, not being able to kind of get into a rhythm, I guess, physically, and also, second, how much will it help to have Rashid back on the field?
Yeah.
The injuries are wild. If Derek is really dealing with these injuries, and some of them, my audio is a little low here, ladies and gentlemen, let me turn it up. If he's really dealing with some of these injuries, and AC sprains, we're talking about multiple possible concussions, that has to be a factor in how he's playing, because you don't just all play your peak through those kind of injuries that Derek has. And that's why I was kind of surprised they haven't held him out a little bit, let him get 100%. He's under a lot of scrutiny right now. He's under the microscope, and the worst time to be injured is when you're under the microscope.
Well, first with Rashid, I'm excited that he was out at practice and he looked really good. So I am excited about that. And then, secondly, physically, I like I told Vilma did the game last week. I told telling him and telling some other, it's been frustrating for me. It has. It's been very frustrating. Whenever every week is something different or dealing with something. But I learned a long time ago. At the end of the day, nobody cares. You got to do your best. You're going to have to answer tough questions when those happen because of those things, and you're going to have to deal with stuff. But you do your best to be out there.
That part is true, but it's kind of a double-edged sword where, no one cares. But if you're out there hurt and your performance dips, you might as well not be out there. People aren't going to they're not going to grade on a curve because you're playing hurt or you're playing through an injury or you're being tough or whatever if the results aren't there. If the results are suffering, I think everyone would rather the player, not just Carr, but any player. I think that they would rather them get healthy and let other players on the team step up. Of course you want to see your players be tough. Of course you want to see your players play. But if they suffer because of it, I don't think fans want that at all.
For your teammates at practice, you do your best to be out there at the games and give it your best shot. And that's what I've been trying to do that all year.
Derek, I feel like this theme we've talked about backup quarterbacks on the opposing team probably every year, and the latest one, Tommy DeVito. I'm sure you saw the Monday night game. Just the energy and the spark that he seems to provide from the team. Yep. What have been your impressions of what he's done these last 3 games?
Man,
when you talk about DeVito and you talk about the Giants and all that, you got to remember, Brian Daboll is a hell of a coach. And you look at what Daboll did in Buffalo with Josh Allen, the development he had. You look at what he did with Daniel Jones his first year, where he takes them to the playoffs. And then you look at what he's done with Tommy DeVito. That's what a good head coach, a good offensive mind can do. I always preach that's our biggest hole. The biggest hole is that we lost the generational offensive mind. We lost that. And when you don't feel that, when you replace that with Dennis Allen and Pete Carmichael and you don't feel that, it's hard to develop players. Even veterans like Derek Carr, Brian Daboll, Kevin O'Connell, guys we've played this season who have had injuries to the quarterback position, and they've gotten a ton out of their guys with Josh Dobbs and Tommy DeVito. So it even shows you like Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland. Kevin Stefanski is getting a lot out of Joe Flacco. He got a lot out of DTR. So You know, when I harp on the play calling, when I harp on the scheme, when I harp on the design, that's why. Because you see it on other teams in the league. You see who's developing these guys, who has the ability to do it. Kyle Shanahan, he's one. Where it doesn't matter who the quarterback is for the last couple of years. The 49ers have been really good. Now he's taking Mr. Irrelevant potentially to be the MVP. So yeah, Tommy DeVito has a lot to do with it, like him as a person. But a huge chunk of his success does need to be attributed to Brian Daboll.
He's done a great job of, protecting the football and making plays, with the abilities that God has blessed him with, and he's done a fantastic job leading them and leading that team. I've been in that stadium, when my brother played there, and, that's a great atmosphere when they're winning and when it's rocking, and you could feel that on Monday night, and, to see what he's done anytime, quarterbacks get their shot and they do well, I'm always going to be their biggest fan unless we're playing them, because I know how hard it is, to try and make this thing a career. So really happy for him, what he's been able to accomplish, and I'm sure he'd be the first one to tell you he can't wait to keep growing and keep getting better, because he's a good player.
Eric, when we're talking about like some of these like shell defenses and taking the deep ball away, should he change that for you a little bit? Like, can he outrun the coverage, I guess? Or
yeah, he can, and he has a couple times this year.
Yeah.
I mean, Indianapolis was a good example where Rashid's speed was able to get over the top of the defense and make huge plays. Him being back is huge because we're so shallow at the position right now. Having relying on A.T. Perry and whoever else, Sherhan's Keith Kirkwood, whoever else we're relying on, having Rashid there to add just a spark of something is obviously huge.
There was I can think of 2 posts that we hit that were quarters looks, shell looks, where when teams play us, some teams play low quarters, but when Rashid's out there, that safety's usually a little bit deeper. He's more apt to let you have that, and there's been a couple times where Rashid has outran that. So it does change some things, where maybe there is a single high safety trying to take that ball away, but if he gets too nosy with a guy like that, you can throw it over the head. I remember that we had one to Henry Ruggs, just a guy with that speed. They were playing single high defense. We're playing in Pittsburgh. Single high safety didn't get deep enough, and you can still throw that ball over their head. So it's not something that mentally you make a living doing, but when you have a guy like that, you have to train your mind again. Like, hey, if we get...
It'll be interesting after hearing Carr talk about it. It'll be interesting if we see it come Sunday.
That look, as a quarterback, I'm not just so quick to get through that.
How much of that is, kind of a modern thing in the NFL where it seems more and more teams are doing that, where they're just like, okay, take away the deep ball, force teams to have to go 10 plus plays. Yeah. Has that been just a change you've noticed throughout your career?
Yes, and one thing I've noticed is things go in cycles, things go in waves, because once that happens, there's going to be an uptick in whatever.
Yeah, I mean, this is what the response was to the Kansas City offense a couple years ago, where the defense has changed, and they basically said, we're not letting you get these huge chunk plays down the field. We're not letting... Buffalo kind of did this, and they said, we're taking that away. Beat us short. We'll let you, throw the ball 20 times going down the field for 4 yards a chunk. We'll let you do that. We're not letting you push it down the field and beat us with these 30, 40, 50-yard passes. And the NFL really, it was like a unified change we saw. It's almost like if the NBA said, we'll let you shoot mid-range, but we're not letting you shoot threes. It's basically what the NFL went through.
Call it whatever, tight ends across the middle. And as soon as you want to take that away, okay, now those are back. And as soon as they do this, then this is back. The run game will be more. The pass game's more. And so one thing I have noticed is things do go in waves, because whatever's working, people usually draft that way. They go to free agency that way, and then it goes for a cycle, and they see something new, and then they do that. And so that is one of those things where it was easier to get shots off earlier in my career, about 8 years ago.
It's also why I think scoring's dropped, because now everything's so slow. It's so much build up. Like the drives are longer, the plays are shorter. I also think the moving forward will be more of that style of kind of a heavy run game, a dominant run game, a dominant offensive line, more between the tackles running. And I think then once that shifts and we start to see more of those dominant run teams, we'll see that shift where the defenses all of a sudden have to respect the run. But I mean, y'all have seen in the last 5 years, the NFL basically abandoned the running back position to have more of this like spread out wide air raid kind of offense. It's going to shift back, and then we'll kind of balance out again. So Carr is right. It definitely does go in waves.
In certain ways. Now you can do it. You just have to be smart about it and do it in different ways. And so finding those matchups, finding those one-on-ones, it's a challenge mentally, but that's why these professional coaches, man, they keep evolving, offensively.
Besides Pete Carmichael, he doesn't evolve at all.
Really
he doesn't even know what's going on.
Just force you to be more patient, I guess, when you're going through it, because you want to be going attacking it deep. It's just not the right read.
100%, and we. Every quarterback, we're not going to make 100% right reads in every game. It just doesn't happen, But, you try your best to be patient through those times and try not to force it. Even last week was a great example. They were doing some good things, staying on top. I mean, shoot, we threw, Chris a curl, and the corner was 30 yards deep, And so you wait and you wait and you wait, then we get our chance and we hit our shot to AT. And so there is a bit of a waiting game sometimes. But other teams, if they think you're going to run it, then you can get those things early. So it's so different every game. I wish I could just give you one answer, but it does change.
Derek, you said you learned a long time ago that nobody cares, and that's how you have to respond to things. But
yeah.
Has it been challenging for you to, wanted a fresh start in a new place? The results haven't come in. We talked about the crowd reaction and things like that. I mean, does it weigh on you? Is it tough to deal with?
It's got to be. I mean, it has to be so hard because Derek is obviously a very emotional player. He's obviously a very, he hears this. He wants to be good. He wants to do good for his team and his city, and he kind of wants to be this leader, and he wants to be this locker room presence. And it's obvious of how he wants to be seen. And I'm sure the fact that how bad Las Vegas ended with him getting benched and then basically pushed out of the building, and then he gets a fresh start here. He gets a big contract. Obviously like the Drew Brees kind of filling those shoes, that adds pressure to it as well. So I'm sure the boos and the reaction and his play and the team's play and all of that, it's got to weigh on you. I mean, it has to weigh on you as a person and a player and a quarterback, and it probably makes you kind of second guess yourself, I would think. It probably makes you second guess who you are and how you fit in the team and how you fit in the city and your leadership style and the locker room and all of that. I mean, I can't even imagine the last 15 weeks for Derek or anyone else on the team.
With that stuff?
I got to be honest, I think the frustrating part is that, as a team, we just haven't put it all together at one time. I think, early on, like we talked about, we were having our struggles in certain areas, and then, man, like the last, again, forgive me not knowing the numbers, 8 or 9 weeks, man, we started having an uptick, last 2 weeks, red zone, 7 for 8, so we're doing things better and we're getting better. But this is a team game. Like, we all got to do it all at one time. That's what DA keeps preaching, when we all three phases show up and we do it, it looks really good. And
I think that is the biggest indicator that this team is lost identity-wise. I've used the whack-a-mole reference before, where they always talk about, oh, well, the red zone's good, but the yards are down. Or the defense is good, but the offense is down. Oh, the special teams is great, but the running game isn't there. They're always looking, like their identity, they think it has to be everything firing off at the same time. They think the run defense has to be good while the pass defense is good, while the run offense is good, while the red zone is good, while the first downs are good. And if there's one thing that's not perfect, they seem to kind of lose their way. And that's just not really how it is. That's just not really how a team can be or how a season can be. It's never going to be like that. You're never going to have the great red zone percentages with the great first down percentages, with the great running clips, with being able to push the ball downfield. That just doesn't happen. You got to find different ways. And usually the answer to that for teams is they rely on their identity. They don't care about whatever, as long as they're doing what they do well. As long as they are sticking to their identity, they're not as concerned with every single facet of the game. Because the Saints don't have an identity, they rely on pretty much every facet of the game to be good. And you see that in these interviews, and you see that whether it's pregame or postgame. If they can point to a turnover or a penalty or one facet of the game, they will. Like, they will point to that and say, well, if this would have been better, we probably could have won. If we wouldn't have had that one red zone turnover, we probably win. If we don't have that one penalty to stall the drive, we win. And I know I cover the Saints closer than any other team, but I never really hear other teams say that. Other teams just stick to, like, I've never heard Philadelphia talk about stuff like that. They talk about what they can do. They talk about what they are known to do, what they do well, what they've done well for the last couple of years, and they rely on that. I've never heard them talk about some of the stuff the Saints talk about. And I think that's just a cultural issue, a philosophical issue, an identity issue. And I don't really put that on Carr, to be honest. I put that on Allen. I think Allen, even more so than Carmichael, I think Allen, it's kind of the same thing where he's playing whack-a-mole. He doesn't have an identity. He's not. He could probably tell you defensively the identity. He could probably tell you if you just asked him about the defense. But when it's every phase, they just seem to be a little bit lost.
It's exciting. So that part comes, man. Like the excitement, all that stuff, that's going to come as we play better and more unified as a team. And winning games always helps that too.
Yep.
At the end of that game, it felt really great again. We get in the red zone, get a stop, touchdown. Get a stop, get the ball, boom, touchdown. You felt that energy start coming back. So we got to do a job as players, keeping that, getting that from the start, keeping it through the finish, and everyone will be happy and excited as long as we can just keep winning.
Are you better at dealing with that year 10 than you would have been?
Oh
earlier in your career?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm a people pleaser. I am. Since I was a little kid, like I care what everyone thinks. Are you happy? Are you?
Yeah, exactly. See what I'm saying? I mean, it's to me, it's written on his face, it's written on his body language, it's written in his answers. That is the most obvious thing I would say about Derek Carr, is that he's very concerned with how he is perceived by everybody, whether it's his teammates or the media or the fans or whatever. He's definitely factoring that in for sure.
Are you good? And I no matter how excellent you try and do your job, no matter how good you try and be in life, all those things, I learned real quick, man, there's still going to be people that don't like you or don't care, or, that kind of stuff. And that was when I was a young player, that was an awakening for me, like, dang, I'm trying to do everything right,
Yeah.
I'm trying to do everything and be a good role model for the kids and all these kind of things. And you learn real quick that, that just is what it is. So it's not that you get hardened, you just know, you know what to expect. It's not going to be positive all the time. But it sure was at the end of that game. And hopefully we can keep doing that for our fans so that we can just have some more good moments.
But that's such a weird disconnect too, because he keeps saying how great it was at the end of the Panthers game. I don't know anybody who was happy about that game besides this team. I don't know anyone who covers the team, fans of the team, who came out of that game saying, like, man, what a great win. Man, this feels good. This feels awesome. It was sure as hell wasn't me. And it wasn't anyone I talked to. The only people I've seen come out of that game happy was Carr, Loomis, Allen. That's it. And it shows you how results oriented they are and how if they win, they're good to go. Derek Carr had 37 yards passing in the fourth quarter. It was one of the worst offensive games I've ever seen in my entire life by two teams. We were a blocked punt away from it being 7-6 in the fourth quarter. It was 14-6. It was a one possession game in the fourth quarter against a team whose quarterback had 2 completions. I always harp on, you can't be that results oriented to where you're just blind to all of that. You're just blind to what happened during the game, and it's like, well, we won, so who cares? We scored in the last 2 drives, so great offensive performance, even though everything else says it was not.
And obviously, I'm trying to get to the heart of this question, just for people like my wife, who's like, well, what does Derek Carr say about all that? Have these last 2 games been especially jarring? That's probably a reaction you haven't even gotten much in your career.
Yeah, I'm not used to that, but I do understand that the expectation is our expectation. So their frustration, that's the way they can show their frustration. My frustration, we show it in our way, and so all of our expectations were so high, and our expectations still should be high. Everything is still in front of us. Again, I keep saying this, man. Like, this is the time to do it. This is the time to get hot. Right now, I was on a team where this is when we got hot, and man, that was a great time in our stadium. It was a great energy in the city, and we want to do that for our city. I absolutely love this place, and I told you I just want to win here.
He's right about this, and the Pelicans have talked about this as well. Zion specifically. If the city, the fans are very passionate, if you give them your best and you win and you give them high performances, they will love you. Like, that is one thing where you can go from being king of the universe to nothing, and vice versa in a heartbeat. If this team gets hot, if Derek Carr gets hot, if he has more than 37 yards passing on in the fourth quarter, if we start to offensively show things, if he starts to light it up a little bit, yeah, those boos will be gone. He will be cheered. He will be loved. Like, this is kind of the place he needs to be if he can win and if he can be good, because he wants to be somewhere where he's loved. He wants to be somewhere where he's the king of the city. He wants to be the Drew Brees. He wants that. You can tell. It's good that he is here versus, a city or a fan base that really doesn't care that much. He's in the perfect spot. The problem with that is that it's very volatile. The problem with that is that he doesn't have room to have these performances he's having. He doesn't. The city is used to, for better or for worse, they're used to Drew Brees. They're used to Sean Payton. They're used to a certain thing. And is that unfair to Derek Carr? Maybe. I don't know. Same with the Patriots with Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi. They're used to a certain thing. They expect a certain thing. So Carr can get everything he wants. He can get that celebrity status. He can get that king status. He can get that hero status. He can go to the grocery store and see little kids wearing his jersey. That all is in front of him. He just has to put it together. The team has to put it together. I'm not all out on Carr. I've been critical of Carr, but I'm not all out on him. I'm all out on the staff. And I think with the right staff, he can be good. I really believe that he's got something. He has not shown it this year, no doubt. But I'm not ready to call him a bust. I'm not ready to say that this was a failed experiment. I'm not willing to say that it was the worst contract in Saints history. Let's see what happens when he gets a competent staff. I can promise you this. If Brian Daboll was his head coach, he would not he would not be in the middle of the season he's in right now. I can 100% guarantee you that. If Sean McVay was his coach, he'd be lighting it up. Lighting it up. I can 100% see if Carr would have went to LA instead of Stafford, I think they have pretty similar success. I put a lot of Carr's issues on this coaching staff.
When we were driving through and they're showing me, I just want to win here because I know what it feels like. And so hopefully getting the one last week, hopefully continue that and keep that energy going all the way throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, Derek, as you just mentioned, I think it was 2021, 6 and 7, you won your last 4 games. What would you say were some of the defining characteristics of that team that allowed for that kind of hot stretch down the season?
It was the closest knit football team, the closest knit any sport team I've ever been on. It was really a unique, special thing that if anyone was around our building, man, you could feel like the love that we had for each other and that energy. Me and one of our leaders, we sat down at breakfast today, and I could feel this unity. We're talking about things obviously I'm not gonna get into, but it's like it was one of those moments where I'm like, man, this could be it. We gotta go do it. And we did not play perfect football at all on that stretch, but one thing we did is, hey, you made a mistake. That's all right. I got your back. Don't worry about it. I make a mistake. Don't worry about it. You got my back. And we had that that was everything that we were, that I believe.
We shall see. And Carr references this kind of stuff all the time. The Saints are one loss away from this not being a thing. Because you can't keep talking about unity. You can't keep talking about friends. You can't keep talking about breakfast. You can't keep talking about whatever once the season's over. And they're one loss away for the next month from that happening. So if they lose to Tampa, if they lose to Atlanta, if they lose to the Giants, these answers won't be possible because no one will care. No one will care about how great breakfast is when you're eliminated from the playoffs, when you're a 9-win maximum team. All that stuff happens. So this is great, but these answers are real close to not being an option for Carr.
That's what we have and what we can be, but we have to obviously go prove that.
So what do you think of this matchup when you talked about expectations for both teams, right? The Giants had high expectations, you did. the seasons haven't gone as either team wanted,
Yeah.
and yet you're here in the middle of December, both of you. It looks like quite an opportunity.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about what does that make you expect going into a game like this?
Yeah. For us.
I don't think the Giants really had high expectations. I think people knew what the Giants were last year. I think they kind of backed their way into the playoffs. I think people expected some serious regression this year. They got it. As a matter of fact, I know that they expected that. And especially with the injuries, now the Giants all of a sudden are kind of playing well. And they don't have aspirations like the Saints do. The Saints have aspirations before the season, well documented. The Saints had aspirations to win like 12, 13 games. The Saints had serious aspirations to be the 1 seed, the 2 seed, to blow away the NFC South. So very different seasons. The 2 seasons are completely different. The Giants are playing pretty much with house money. No one expects him to be good. No one expects Tommy DeVito to be good. He is being good. It's a fun story. They can kind of do whatever they want moving into next year. It doesn't matter at all. People expected the Giants to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. They aren't. They're way better than the Panthers and some of even like the Cardinals. The Saints, people expected to be one of the best teams in the NFL, or at least high average, above average. Fact of the matter is, they're 2 games under 500 with the easiest schedule in the NFL. So, totally different tracks for the season.
I remember my mindset, which is my mindset all the time, but you could feel it. For everybody, it's like you have to treat them all like playoff games. Like that's the mindset.
Oh, they are now. They are playoff games right now.
Try your best as a leader to instill that to all the young guys, like every week, from here on out, because we have earned this situation. Every week is a playoff game. You got to treat it like that. It's got to feel like that in your preparation, and you're taking care of your body, all that stuff. And I would say that's another thing that I realized in that year was everyone had that heightened sense of urgency. It's something that you could feel at practice today. So I know both sides are feeling that, especially, but we're focused on us and focused on, man, if we can have a great Wednesday, awesome. Can we have a good Wednesday night? Can we have a good, Thursday? All those kind of things, because if you focus on that day-to-day preparation, week to week, then the results come. And so we feel like we're doing this. We've been talking about like things we've been really doing better, and things that we're excited about as our team is getting healthier too. So hopefully we can continue that, but it's that playoff game-to-game mindset that we hopefully you can instill into everybody.
Each game is absolutely a playoff game.
Less than a month ago.
That's right.
But you obviously can't look at them that way now.
No. I've always told you guys, like if everyone watched that game, like that defense that we played last week, they have 1 win, I think. Forgive me, but I think they got 1 win. But that doesn't feel like a 1-win team. That defense is.
It certainly should feel like a 1-win team. The Panthers have the 29th ranked defense in the NFL. So that was a big conversation afterwards. A lot of people got lost in the yards per game thing, and Carolina was like 7th or something like that. You do the weighted defense where everything's equal, where they take that kind of stuff out. Boom, they're like 29th. So I had to answer that question a lot in the comments last week. No, Carolina does not have a good defense. Spoiler alert, sorry to be the one to tell you. Again, 29th ranked defense. So if Carr was befuddled by that defense, he's got a long road ahead of him, because the Giants are better than Carolina, and Carolina should feel like a 1-win team. They proved it. Again, Bryce Young had 2 completions at halftime. I almost had 2 completions at halftime, and I was eating nachos in the stands. So, I don't understand the whole, that doesn't look like a 1-win team when you see the performance that they gave you. Bryce Young with 2 completions. The defense, 29th ranked. They can't do anything. They can do nothing on offense. They showed, that was the most 1-win performance a team could possibly give you. And the fact that on the other side of the field, we're sitting there saying, man, that doesn't look imagine watching that game and being like, man, this just doesn't look like a 1-win team. Meanwhile, Bryce Young's 2 for 13 passing. They've got nothing going on the ground. They're doing nothing at all. I mean, if that's that's just such a crazy answer to me.
One of the best defenses we played all year. The scheme, the things, the adjustments they make, the players they have. So I never look at just the numbers or the win total. Man, you turn that film on and you get a feel for who's about to show up, in the Superdome.
How much does Jimmy Graham's energy kind of ignite you guys as a moment?
Jimmy is one of my favorite teammates I've ever had. He's the same every day, always smiling. And then when we get in between the white lines, he's like crazy. You know, he's psycho. Like, if I'm gonna be completely honest, like one of the worst moments of the game was after that third down catch, and he hugged me, and I felt my rib go like this. And I looked at him and said, Jimmy, I was like, please don't do that again. So then we threw him the touchdown, and he patted me on the head like a little kid. My wife was like, he patted you like you were 12 years old. I was like, yeah, he's 6'8", you know. But his energy that he brings, how much he loves football, how much he loves his teammates, that's something that I really hope some of our young guys are really taking notice, because you know, I've been around some older players, and the best ones are the ones that have that kind of spirit about them. And you know,
Jimmy is one of the guys that I've talked about before, where when he does anything, the crowd erupts. They love him. I mean, they love the guy, and that's a good example. You know, like Jimmy Graham is certainly not having a Pro Bowl season. He's been used sparingly because the coaching staff's completely inept. But because he had that stretch of success early in his career, the city and the fans have not forgotten that. They treat him like Travis Kelce. They treat him like the best tight end in the league. That is what the city can give you. If you perform, you love the city will love you back.
He's that way. You know, Charles Woodson was that way. Just loved football. You know, you loved being around him. You felt like you were a better player just by being on his team. You know, and Jimmy has that effect on me for sure as a teammate, but I know he has an effect on a lot of guys.
Derek, when you talk about the 7-8 weeks that you feel like things have gone well for the offense, I know it's a team game, but anything specifically for you that you think has clicked better those?
Yeah, I'm getting much better feel of our chemistry and our timing with some of the wideouts and some of the things that we've shown spurts of, like, you know, again, you go back a couple weeks to, you know, the Atlanta game. Chris has however many, and then he gets hurt. Man, I really felt like it was going to be an even bigger day for him, you know. And then some of the decisions he's made on routes and we've hit on and connected on, that stuff that takes years of experience to do together. And, you know, stuff that I was doing with Waller and Hunter, and we did it in the first year. And
yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the communication, the chemistry, the timing, and stuff like that on some of these routes and some of the stuff has looked a little bit better. I mean, at the beginning of the year, there was, you know, Olave was screaming at Carr was screaming at Olave. People were running the wrong routes. So I think I've seen a little bit better tempo, timing, communication, all that stuff from Carr and his wide receivers.
Man, I went and hugged him during the drive. I was like, that was freaking awesome, you know. So I see things with chemistry and timing that we're getting better. Obviously, you know, this last game was a little tougher for whatever reason. But, you know, hopefully we can continue that as, you know, Sheed is getting healthy back and we're getting healthy again. Hopefully we can continue that, because I really have seen how I thought it should look. It's starting to happen on certain things.
Can I just maybe follow on up on what Mike was asking about, kind of, sorry, I know it's cold.
No, you're good.
The human side of it, of, you know, loving the city, wanting to win here, all that stuff. I mean, your family does go to the games, and for some of us that have been here a long time, you know, Archie joked about that with Cooper. Yeah. You know, when he had some tough times here, Cooper famously, like, asked his mom, "Can I boo him too?" Yeah. you know. So just out of curiosity, do you tell your kids, like, hey, they just want dad to play better, or do you kind of insulate them from some of the stuff they see at the games?
Oh no, I talk to my kids about everything, you know, because they're there. You know, they're old enough, they're smart, and I will say this: Archie has been great for me. He's reached out.
It is such an interesting question, you know, as a father or whatever, to be on the field in such a spotlight, and your kids to be there, and then to hear the whole stadium booing, like all that. I would imagine that is a difficult conversation and a question that could come up, and you never really think about that. You never think about the human element. You always see, when you see a family like in the box or whatever, usually you see them cheering, but watching them boo Carr and you know, all of that does have to. I don't know how old his kids are, but that's got to be a wild dynamic.
Many times, and just the encouragement, the support, all those things, and I just been blown away. You know, he can share certain things with me that, you know, he experienced, and so he's been unbelievable. Their whole family's been unbelievable for me. And yeah, I talk to my kids. I like guys. You know, at the end of the day, you still got to do your job. I remember the other day, my son was. True story. He's frustrated with his math homework. He's getting really upset at it. He won't even look at the page. Look, son, it's okay. I'm gonna start booing you right now too. You know, and he made him laugh. You know, I was like, it doesn't matter, buddy. Just focus and do your best, man. That's all you can do. Knocked his homework out, and it was just a great lesson for him. You know, it was a great lesson as a dad to be able to teach him. So, look, man, I love everybody.
I mean, it's a great answer. You know, as much as we knock this guy, great answer. You know, you do have to focus. You do have to just focus on your job, take care of your job. Can't worry about what's going on outside of it. And, you know, the math homework thing, great example where you can be frustrated, you can be feeling all these things, but you still have to focus and get the job done. And that's the only thing that's going to make it better. You know, so it is good to hear those kind of things come from Carr. It's good to hear how he's taking that and how, because I've said it before, but the boos really are from a place of love. I think people want him to be good, obviously. They don't want him to fail. So, but it's the only way the fans have. They're not going to sit there and write him letters. You know, the only way they have to express their frustration with what's happening right now is to boo. It's the same as whenever you see Carr and McCoy or Carr and Olave arguing. Like, that's their way of expressing their frustration. So he seems to be taking it the right way. He seems to be kind of absorbing it correctly versus like pushing back against it and being defensive. So it might be one of those things where it makes him better. It might be one of those things that makes the team better. And you know, so this is the right answer.
Right, and I'm going to do my best this week to get everyone excited, complete all the passes I can complete, score all the points that we can score. And I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to keep giving everything that I physically can, everything mentally that I can to do my best. And I know all of our team is doing that. But we got to give them some stuff to get excited about.
Yeah, for sure.
And we have in certain halves, you know, but we got to do it as a whole, you know, so we can, you know, keep being positive and keep getting excited about all the fun stuff that we believe that we can do.
Yeah.
One more about Jimmy. When he, in the middle of the season, when he just didn't seem to be part of the game plan for quite a while, at 37, you know, point in his career, would it have been unreasonable for an observer like us, or maybe even a teammate, to wonder, is he going to disengage and just kind of like sour on the experience and fade out?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's human nature, right?
Yeah.
And like even as a team, like I've known Jimmy for a short amount of time. You know, our lockers were right there by each other, and we've become good friends, texting each other, sending each other funny things, you know, all that stuff. And even during all that, your human nature is like you realize how, you know, what age he is, what year this is for him. He's not in. How's he going to react? You know.
Yeah, I mean, that's his role too. He's 37. He's a veteran on the team. He's been here before. He knows his role. He knows he's not here to catch 20 touchdown passes, and he should be utilized more. But again, coaching staff has no idea what they're doing. He absolutely should be in more red zone looks and red zone packages. I think his snaps show that he's, for some reason, he has not been utilized in the red zone as much as he should have. So yeah, that's for the staff. But I think Jimmy understands his role. He's a pro's pro.
Still, as a player, you watch how everyone reacts in the locker room. You still want to learn. You still want to see how they're going to be. And when I tell you this man was out there giving a look for the defense, this man is putting a penny on. This is Jimmy Graham, one of the best tight ends I've ever seen, we've all ever seen, putting a penny on, giving a look for the defense, making catches, spiking the ball, having fun. I was like, man, like, you can't take my joy, you know? And, you know, we always joke, you know, you can't kill a man that's already dead. You know, once you're dead to whatever, once you're dead to all that stuff, you can't kill me, you know? I'm going to enjoy this. And Jimmy lived that out, man. Like, it was an ideal situation. You know, he got the touchdown in Green Bay, and it's like, dang, you know, he's probably thinking, man, what happened? All this kind of stuff. But he kept being him, kept being a great teammate. I really can't say anymore. I wish I could say even more positive things. It was just amazing to watch him, what he did, and the work he put in for our team.
On that third down, would you say that's the highest you've ever thrown a ball that's been caught?
Man, that was way up there. The pass where Graham went up and got it. That didn't look like a 37-year-old tight end, I'll say that.
Him and Waller, for sure. The arms, because where I had to throw that ball, like, I was like, I hope he can get there. And he just went up and got it, held on, took the hit. And that was one of the more impressive catches I've seen in my career, especially in that moment, you know, third down, all that.
Just think of it as an alley-oop pass. Yeah.
That's right, yeah, he'll go get that, yeah, every time.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Derek Carr. Let me know in the comments below. A lot talked about there. I like, you know, you never know how much is lip service, how much is how he's feeling, but it sounds like he's in the right place emotionally. Good interview from Carr, I would say. This is one of the best interviews I heard from him. It was very transparent. This is the kind of stuff you want to hear. So hopefully this leads to a better performance. Let me know in the comments below what you think about everything. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.